Welcome back to Gamer Grades by the Nerd Chat. Today we're diving into the world of I Hate This Place, developed by Rock Square Thunder. We definitely want to send a huge thank you to the developers for providing a free copy for review. You know how some games ease you in gently, a tutorial, a warm-up fight, a helpful UI tooltip perhaps? Yeah, that doesn't happen in I Hate This Place. Instead, it drops you in the middle of nowhere, hands you a vague sense of dread, and basically says, good luck. This survival horror game blends exploration, light base building, questing, and some surprisingly strong voice work into an experience that's tense, occasionally confusing, but often rewarding. After spending significant time digging through its haunted woods, stocking up on an alarming amount of shotgun shells, and unlocking 7 of its 30 achievements in the first hour alone, here's what I think worked, what didn't hit with me, and whether you should expect to love or hate your own time with this game. Let's jump in. The story of I Hate This Place gets set up very quickly. In essence, your BFF goes missing and you're on a mission to save her. That being said, the story actually goes quite a bit deeper than that, but it really unfolds with a figure-it-out-as-you-go approach. The writing leans slightly self-aware without undercutting the tension, and there's a subtle humor baked into the premise. It's not enough to make it overtly campy, but just enough to give the world some great personality. The central protagonist, Elena, does carry emotional weight well. Her performance is grounded, believable, and elevated by solid voice acting throughout. In fact, the voice work really shines in the endgame. It sells the emotional payoff and makes the ending land. The supporting cast, including standout characters like the priest, are likable, but most feel a little shallow. You understand their role in the story, but most of them don't evolve much beyond it. That said, the ending was genuinely strong as there's a satisfying tie back to the beginning, a meaningful choice, and a cool epilogue that gives closure without overstaying its welcome. For language arts, I award a B+. So is it worth your time and money? Here's the thing. Despite the relatively small map and focused story, there is quite a lot to do, especially for a $30 game. In addition to the main quests, you've got ghost side quests, item-based progression, base building objectives that encourage you to revisit areas, and a steady stream of achievements to chase if you're a completionist. Even early on, it's clear that the exploration in the game is not optional, it's essential. Thankfully, I also found it quite fun. If you enjoy survival horror systems, light Metroidvania progression, and resource gathering, then this is very likely worth your time. If you're looking for a constant hand-holding or strictly linear experience, then you might actually bounce off it early. But for players willing to dig around, literally and figuratively, there's a meaningful depth beneath the surface. For math, I awarded an A-. At first glance, the map appears limited, but the deeper you go, the more it unfolds, especially with its entrances and exits to additional areas like bunkers, caves, and mines. I also really appreciated that areas of the map often felt both different and distinct, even if you could transition between them pretty quickly. The modified isometric perspective works well most of the time for the game, but it does make certain moments frustrating. Gauging enemy positions and navigating around obstacles can be awkward, especially in tighter encounters. There's also an interesting design choice around combat. Early on, resources like ammo and health feel very scarce. Some containers do replenish, and your willingness to explore every nook and cranny does bring some level of relief, but it really does have a classic survival horror vibe. Additionally, it's not always clear whether you should be fighting or avoiding enemies. Some can honestly take a lot of ammo to bring down, which sometimes make avoidance feel like a logical choice. By the end, however, especially if you build an even rudimentary base, ammo is almost plentiful. In my playthrough, by the end game, I had over 100 shotgun shells and was absolutely wrecking enemies like I was the Doomslayer. This isn't inherently a problem, but I do admit that some elements of it did feel slightly imbalanced. On the technical side, loading between scenes is very fast and the controls are very responsive, something that really helped when the tension spiked. As for bugs, I definitely encountered a few minor hiccups like occasional duplicate characters on screen, as well as some quest-related oddities. But to be clear, nothing was game-breaking or stopped my progression, it's just worth noting that it happened. For science, I award a B-. If you've played survival horror games before, you'll pick up on the rhythm of this world pretty quickly. By that same token, I honestly feel like world building is one of the stronger elements of this game. Even in its smaller ecosystem, the setting feels cohesive, eerie, isolated, and strange in ways that reward paying attention. There's environmental storytelling layered throughout, and exploration often pays off with either resources or narrative breadcrumbs. The base building mechanic reinforces immersion, but does feel a little forced at times, and at the same time reinforces the idea of an interconnected world. If you're diligent about returning frequently and resetting your quote-unquote machines, you're rewarded with an abundance of resources that can ease the strain of things like ammo and healing items. Ultimately, this IP feels confidently used, not over-explained, and not spoon-fed. You're trusted to absorb the world of the Horned Band and its cult through context, and that trust mostly pays off by the end. One of my gripes is the use of your journal, specifically the section that's drawings as opposed to text or your to-do list, but the visuals in this section are intriguing and well done. The problem is that they really don't help the game progression and they felt slightly unnecessary. For social studies, I award a B+. Visually, this game is really crisp. Textures are sharp, the world design is clear and readable, and technically they do an incredible job of removing objects that block the quasi-isometric view in real time. I also believe the lighting helps sell the horror tone really well, especially at night or in dark corridors when you're using your flashlight. At the same time, animations can feel awkward and somewhat limited at times. Movement and enemy reactions occasionally lack fluidity or variety, which stands out only because everything else looks and feels so polished. It's certainly not immersion-breaking, but it's noticeable enough that I thought I would share. For art, I award a C+. When it comes to sound design, it is both critical and cleverly implemented. The game makes sound feel visual. Audio cues aren't just atmosphere, they're information. They guide exploration, signal threats, and heighten tension throughout, especially if you're playing with headphones. There are some effective jump scares, but they're not overused. The music supports exploration and combat without overwhelming either, and once again, the voice acting deserves some incredible credit, especially in the endgame because it elevates key moments and story beats. For music, I award a B. When it comes down to it, is this game fun? I'd say yes, but with a little bit of an asterisk. While a speedrun is likely possible, exploring is what makes this game genuinely fun. Like any good survival horror game, taking the time to look around is rewarding and meaningful, and to some degree it's pretty necessary. While it sometimes happened by accident, returning to previous areas with new or upgraded items created a nice feeling of being rewarded because you could access all the spaces or even some new spaces. Finding resources, uncovering quests, unlocking achievements, it all fed into a really satisfying gameplay loop. And as a longtime fan of survival horror games, I actually appreciated working through situations with limited resources. But I also do admit there were times where I got to have so much ammo that it was really fun to play like I was Ash from Evil Dead. I Hate This Place doesn't over-explain or hold your hand. It expects you to adapt and to engage in a little trial by error. This may frustrate players new to survival horror genres, but for me, it was actually pretty cool. Either way, I will happily report that once this game clicks, it clicks. For PE, I award an A. I Hate This Place may not reinvent survival horror, but it understands what makes the genre work, and it wraps it in a package that is fresh and digestible. It's tense and rewarding while also being imperfect, but it's also a game that clearly knows what it's doing and that I thoroughly enjoyed. By the time the credits rolled, with that final choice and epilogue, while I can't speak for Elena, I'm happy to report that I didn't hate this place at all. For its overall GPA, I award it a B+. Once you have the chance to play it, let me know what you think in the comments. And for all things gaming, food, and the good old days, make sure to check out the Nerd Chat every Thursday night on YouTube. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you online.